Hello and welcome to the Eppendorf Lab channel, your home for experts and knowledge live. My name is Anne-Claire. I am a global marketing manager for Eppendorf SE, and today I'm your moderator. And we are all super excited to have you here joining us for the 8th installment in our webinar series on digitalization, entitled Building Your Digital Lab, Investing into Digital Tools to Avoid Disconnected Data. And in this webinar, we will focus on the benefits of a connected digital laboratory and discuss why every lab should invest into connected digital solutions to enhance data integrity, increase efficiency, but also save money. And I'm super excited to welcome our expert presenters today. With me here are Saree Suribian, Tobias Wingbermühle, and Lynn Phillip. Let me tell you a bit about our speakers from today. Saree Suribian is from ELABnext, and he's a former biochemist, researcher in the biofuels industry, who has dedicated his career to assisting research and development-based labs with tech innovations to be successfully implemented in laboratories. As head of ELABnext Americas, Z focuses on building a healthy digital strategy for labs by establishing a sustainable infrastructure for laboratories. The next one is Tobias. He's the Chief Commercial Officer and co-founder of Cluster Market, the leading lab equipment scheduling and management software. He has over 8 years of sales and marketing experience in the scientific sector and has started 2 businesses. And last but not least, we have Lynn Phillip on board today. She's heading the portfolio management digital solutions at Eppendorf SE and is passionate about leveraging technological innovations to improve laboratory experiences and to accelerate scientific work. Lynn has an academic background in biochemistry as well as in business management. And at Eppendorf, she's responsible for the visionized portfolio of digital products that facilitates lab operations teams and scientists to make the most of their lab assets. Hello, everyone. And yeah, great to have you here. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good day, everyone.
Good.
Awesome. It's great. And before we get started, I would like to take a moment to direct your attention of our attendees here today to the interactive portion of the Eppendorf Lab channel. If you look directly below the video frame, you will see a simple form for submitting questions for the experts. After the presentation is completed, our experts can address questions or concerns you might have in the Q&A session. Below, you also find below the submission of the questions, you will find links and forms to all the solutions highlighted today. You will find a form for Cluster Market, ELABnext, and for the Visionized Lab Suite. And be sure to contact us or our experts for more information on demos and trials. And with further ado, I'd like to hand over to Z. Z, the stage is yours.
There. So welcome, everyone. And I'm very excited to talk to you about lab digitization. And what is lab digitization? What is digital health? Let's together. Can we go to the next slide? So these are kind of the 5 pillars of lab digitization, and then these are the buzzwords of the industry. And just to go over these very quickly, when we look at accessibility, we're not just talking about accessing data remotely when working from home due to having a digital lab, but it is about accessing very specific sets of data. If you have samples with thousands of metadata fields and you have 1,000 samples and you have hundreds of experiments, filtering through all of that information to get to the things that you want to get to becomes very difficult. And it's important to have the tools available for you to access that information. When we talk about efficiency, well, Excel is a form of lab digitization, but is that really making you more efficient? Or if you have, different software implemented in different departments within the same organization, is that making you more efficient or causing decentralized data? So we'll talk about this also, of how you can automate things and how you can centralize things under one platform in order for you to be more efficient. Security and compliance is a very, very important topic in the world of digital lab. We recommend to any lab right now that's listening in, when you are looking to implement a software, to always pay attention to ISO certification, to look into GXP compliance, to look into 21 CFR Part 11 compliance, as that will be an important foundational component as you are moving from research and development to more process and development, and maybe further into going into clinical. Data analysis has become a very important part of lab digitization, and there's two folds here. One is whether your software that you are implementing has data analysis features within it. For example, having an AI tool that can, let's say, process the images that you're getting from your microscopes. Or it can be about how organized and standardized your software is, so then you can export the data and provide it to your data scientists for them to do all the data analysis. So it's extremely important to have a software that is very easy to access and is very organized. And last of these these 5 pillars, we're looking into instrument monitoring and connectivity. This is where the marriage with Cluster Market and Visionize starts to kind of take hold. But one thing to keep in mind here is that besides connecting your instruments to your digital lab, it's also important to know the data that you are collecting from your instruments. What is that journey looking like, and how all of that is being stored in a digital lab. So I'd like to kind of prime the presentation with these 5 pillars as we move on to the next slide. So maybe this will put a smile on your face when you're listening in. Oftentimes we'll look at the person at the top left, and we assume that we are this organized, this clean in our lab. But oftentimes we end up being the person on the bottom right. If you click next once, Lynn. So we end up having that kind of a freezer in the lab, and this does not mean that we are not good scientists. This just means that we haven't had the tools available for us in order to organize everything and standardize everything. And this is exactly what all of us here on this panel are trying to do. Is we're trying to bridge that gap between the physical world and the digital world, and we don't realize that the digital solutions that we provide actually ends up having impact on the physical world and the actual physical lab that you have. And this is not just about samples, but this is also about all of the different, let's say, folders that you have, all the different binders that you have, and in Google Docs and Google Sheets, and they keep on piling up on different computers and in different people's accounts. So with that in mind, as we try to kind of show you how to become more standardized in the lab, let's go on to the next slide. So as you're looking here, you see that everything is interconnected. Whether you are planning your experiments, executing your experiments, or documenting your experiments, that has many components within it, whether it be gathering data from your instruments, whether it be the metadata from your samples. Oops. And the point of this is being able to have a system that is very easy to implement. The learning curve is not much, and through this process of setting things up, you set a very strong foundation within your lab, allowing you to build on top of that as you are hiring more people, you're getting more and more instruments in the lab, and scaling up. So let's move on to the next slide. So the question comes, so okay, how do we do this? If we have a chemistry lab, we have a molecular biology lab, department, how are we going to connect everything together, create this kind of seamless communication between different departments? And on top of all of that, still have time to do our experiments, keep track of where our samples are, and at the end of the month or at the end of the quarter, be able to pull all of this information and kind of see the trends within the lab. And what we are basically suggesting is as you're picking out a digital solution for your lab, is to look at the bigger picture and try to see how that connection can be made. So as an example that we are using here, having, let's say, a platform like eLab Next, you are able to connect the experiment work, the inventory work, and all of the SOP management in the lab, and connect all of that to your instruments. And for anything that, let's say, the software cannot provide, we provide a marketplace that is provided by our software that allows you to, let's say, connect a third-party software into it to be able to use all of these other software. And this kind of an environment is what allows labs to scale up, because you might start on one path, and over time, as you do your experiments, you might pivot to a different topic of research. And it's very important to be able to adapt to the work that you do, and also adapt to the industry's needs. And with this kind of environment, we are able to provide that scalability and that agility for you to grow along with it. And so how do we do that? You see here SDK and API. Let's go into the next slide to take a deeper dive into that. So when we look at SDK, this stands for Software Development Kit. These are basically tools used to build applications. And API stands for Application Programming Interface, which is an interface to interact between applications. So having these tools available is what essentially allows you to connect third-party software into another software and create this seamless integration that allows all the departments of the labs to work together without having to sign off and go into another software and cause loss of data. So with that in mind, I'll pass it on to my colleague Tobias to talk to you exactly about this and how we did this to make your life easier in the lab.
Yeah, thank you very much, C. And before we move to the next slide, I want to raise a few points. Digital tools have a great impact on innovation and on the quality of research, as Z mentioned already previously. So this can happen by increasing the quality and reproducibility of experiments, and also by improving the access to required equipment. And with the help of technical integrations, and Z mentioned a few examples how these can actually happen, we are able to combine powerful tools to provide researchers with additional benefits. So moving between software solutions without actively leaving a software and entering in another one is already saving a lot of time and making a software more user-friendly, or avoiding or data can flow barrier-free between the different systems, which is another big benefit. So no manual exporting from one system in a CSV file and then importing in another system in a CSV file. This can save a lot of time, hassles, and also can drive the adoption of digital tools within your teams. So how can such an integration look between different systems? So if we move to the next slide, we've prepared a few examples between Eppendorf, Cluster Markets, and eLab Next. So they are a good example of building a valuable integration between different systems and how this can benefit the researchers in the end. So starting with Eppendorf's Visionize solution, that provides a functionality such as IoT device connectivity, remote monitoring, and maintenance planning. And they have built an integration to eLab Next to send environmental and equipment information directly in your ELN. So you get additional valuable information for your experiment notes. And if these parameters are recorded in the right way, it will help to improve the quality, reliability, and reproducibility of your experiments. On the next slide, I would jump into Cluster Market. So with Cluster Market, we have specialized in equipment management and equipment scheduling, providing labs with a tool to coordinate equipment reservations, monitor instrument utilization, and communicate maintenance activities. And what we have seen and what we've realized by supporting more than 10,000 labs worldwide is that integrations with other leading software solutions are key to provide researchers with all the functionality they need in their daily lab activities. As we all know, the lab environment is a super complex ecosystem. With the integration that you can see here to Eppendorf's IoT solution, scientists can view and monitor environmental parameters such as temperature, CO2 concentration, is the incubator door open or closed, how high is the humidity in your lab. This all can be seen now in Cluster Market to plan and review equipment usage and the workflows right in Cluster Market. So I believe the first example, and these examples are examples for showing how data can flow and move between the systems, and providing the second solution with additional benefits and driving the value of the data that you can collect. On the next slide, we are aiming again to improve the quality, reliability, and reproducibility of experiments. So here we send the equipment usage, the equipment information itself to eLab Journal. So the experiment notes of eLab Next, eLab Journal are even more helpful to reproduce and show more reliability of the experiments. So if you want to know what equipment have you used exactly for this experiment, how long, how often, what was the current calibration. So all of this information is valuable for the researcher in the end, and doesn't cost you any additional time in exporting information, importing. It's just there because there's a technical integration and the data flows without you doing anything. Besides barrier-free movement of data, on the next slide, we want to show how all the three systems are also improving the user friendliness. So if you're currently in eLab Next, you're taking your notes, you don't want to log out and log in into Cluster Market or actively move between the systems. So we made it possible that you can reserve and plan time on your equipment directly via eLab Next. Or another example would be if you're in Cluster Market and you are checking the humidity or CO2 concentration of your incubator, and you also want to see the historical information behind it, you are directly diverted to the Eppendorf Visionize solution. So you see a seamless movement of your user experience between the systems, because we all know digital tools are fantastic, but nowadays researchers are getting flooded with, starting with Microsoft Teams, with Microsoft Calendar, but also with inventory system, with an ELN, with a booking system, with an IoT system. So there's so much coming on top of the work that a researcher does. How you can decrease the amount of time that they spend on the digital tools is by using integrations that provide data flow or the user flow. So I briefly mentioned it at the beginning. So as the laboratory environment is a complex ecosystem, it is super important to look at your digital needs before implementing digital tools. So a solution with helpful integrations will help to prevent the data silos that I mentioned. They boost the adoption within your organizations by providing a better user experience. And as C mentioned, it will keep your digital health more healthy. Keep that all in mind. I'm currently in Amsterdam on a conference called Lab of the Future. That's where large pharma companies such as GSK, AstraZeneca, Genentech, BioNTech, and also medium-sized companies are sharing their experiences of implementing digital solutions or changing digital solutions. And one of the key challenges they are always facing is adoption. How can they motivate their employees to adopt new technical technical software solutions? And what always comes up is integrations make the life easier of the end user themselves. With this, I would like to hand over to Lynn, who will speak more about the IoT.
Thank you, Tobias. Now we switch our perspective to the workhorses of the laboratory. This is the equipment and instrumentation and their connectivity. These are equipment that are often running 24/7. The world of instrumentation has traditionally also been a major contributor to this disconnected data that both Z and Tobias referred to. This was often due to very vendor-specific protocols that are implemented, but today there are many advances with this respect also in this field. Let's now start our journey from the sample, which we are often referring to as the center of any lab. The quality of the results and experiments are often incumbent on the quality of the samples that are used. Effectively, executing sample management and also monitoring of sample ensures reliability and validity of any studies carried out in a research setting. There is the risk of compromising valuable data if you do not collect samples carefully, record all of their relevant metadata information, store them appropriately in the right conditions, and record all of the handling information. It's vital also to maintain a clear chain of custody during the lifetime of the sample. And this is one of the key priorities of any scientist or a technician in the lab. This work, in the past and sometimes even today, is conducted in a highly manual fashion. With frequent cataloging of sample records, today there are many digital tools from complex information management software, automated sample tracking solutions to make it easy to use systems like eLab Inventory from our partner here today to help reduce the burden of tediously documenting sample-related information and also their evolution in an effort, of course, to improve reproducibility of research. Therefore, lab equipment used for the storage of sample are critical for the apt health and also the viability of samples. They are running around the clock. Some instrumentation are storing or even processing thousands of samples and generating lots of data. These samples are often precious and sometimes even irreplaceable. Instrument and equipment today, which I refer to as the workhorses of the laboratory, can be easily monitored continuously to ensure that the precious samples are being stored in exact conditions, and also to support with automating a lot of the documentation and also any deviations that are occurring. I would like to take a second to dive a little bit deeper into the tool set that we can offer from Eppendorf. We offer a cloud-based product that is called Visionize Lab Suite for live monitoring of all of our instruments. Let's have a quick look at how such a monitoring system can help support work in the lab. A monitoring solution like Visionize Lab Suite supports with a wide range of tasks, ranging from ensuring the safety and integrity of the samples that are stored or processed in this equipment by monitoring live data, for example, of the freezer, temperature, and also supporting with equipment booking, planning maintenance activities, and also supporting compliance, among many other things. Let's have a closer look at how sample safety is supported by such a system. As a user of the system, you can review the recorded data from anywhere, whether you are sitting on a different floor in your lab building or you're in the comfort of your couch in the evening, but left a cycler running and are wondering, is my run complete now? You can also instantly receive notification when an event of interest to you takes place. This could be the end of a PCR run, prompting you to retrieve your sample for processing, or an error that occurred that requires attention or manual interaction. Such notifications can also be programmed to be informed to many users with some kind of a logic for very critical issues that allows that issues are addressed quickly. All data from instrument that is being recorded can be exported easily for further processing and analysis in other system. This is one of the examples of how a tool like Visionize Lab Suite can support usage of data in any system of choice to support efficient scientific work. Tobias, of course, mentioned that we have integrations into Cluster Market and into eLab Next that allows this to be done without any kind of manual export or import of data to allow this to be seamlessly integrated into your work environment. Now, software like Visionize Lab Suite can support in digitizing all device-related information in the lab with comprehensive metadata from them that allows for lab management. This can be done for all equipment regardless of the age or supplier of the equipment. Digitally cataloging data of all equipment with appropriate contextual information provides transparency on what is existing in the lab, what is the state of this equipment, what condition were they operated in, are they appropriate for use, is it the right tool for your next experiment, and also is there room for further utilizing them. Irrespective of the generation of equipment, most of the Eppendorf equipment can be connected for live monitoring. Many of our products from Eppendorf can be connected quickly and easily out of the box. To ensure comprehensive data without disconnection, it's equally vital to monitor live data of all instrumentation regardless of who manufactured the equipment. Here, Visionize Sense, which you see on the right-hand side, can be utilized to monitor third-party temperature-controlled equipment to provide inclusive monitoring of all your sample storage instruments, regardless of if it's a freezer, a -20 fridge, or maybe a CO2 incubator. A very quick look at the difference between Eppendorf and non-Eppendorf freezer monitoring here. Here on the top, you see we have the image of a touchscreen controller from our flagship freezer, the F740HI, which allows a user to control usage and access to the freezer with a user log and a connected door lock that restrict access to only those who are authorized. This provides an in-depth documentation log of all those who access the freezer, including time of door opening, all logs of events that occurred, like a temperature alarm or if there was a power loss. On one hand, this provides peace of mind to react quickly when you are in the lab and convenience of automated documentation to enhance your experimental recording, for example, that is in eLab Next, without additional efforts. These F740HI freezers can quickly be connected to Visionize Lab Suite just with an Ethernet cable to enhance the monitoring, but also with remote access to data to make sure that you're able to react to any kind of events, regardless of the time of the day. As most of the labs do not only have equipment coming from Eppendorf, but also from many other vendors, it was vital, as I mentioned, to provide that this kind of sample safety is available to all devices, and this is something that we do through Visionize Sense. It can be quickly added to any device from any supplier that has a temperature control and can be used to augment sample storage documentation. Now, as an overview, a connected lab with connected devices harnesses the data of equipment from a device to support comprehensive sample handling and storage in the lab. With Visionize Lab Suite, you can do this for all equipment, whether from Eppendorf, like a shaker, a centrifuge, an incubator, or cycler, to have transparent digital log of all device information in a lab. Let's now wrap this up. A digital tool like Visionize Lab Suite addresses various use cases around equipment management, ranging from monitoring of precious sample to ensuring sample safety, to monitoring performance of devices, managing lifetime maintenance. The ultimate benefit of such a digital tool is not only to provide convenience for scientists and lab workers, to be able to efficiently do their work, but these digital tools also contribute to reproducible results by providing transparency on the state of your samples and instruments that are processed in the lab. Ultimately, since our topic for today is data silos, an open digital tool like Visionize Lab Suite allows the data from different instruments to be managed within one tool, but also allows this data to be accessible from different systems like eLab Next and cluster markets. This provides flexibility but cross-availability of data for helping scientists have access to the instrument data within the right context to make the right decisions. Now, let's step away a little bit from what Eppendorf can offer and talk about what could be the benefits. What are the considerations that you need to make when looking at what is available in terms of digital solutions and informatics solutions in the market? There are many more loftier benefits that can be achieved from digitizing the laboratory and investing into improving the digital health of your lab. Lab processes, whether it's planning, conducting, and documenting experiments, or ordering of reagents and supplies, or planning maintenance of equipment in the lab, can be made less tedious, time-consuming, and more automated and efficient by digitizing the processes involved around them. Traditionally, the digitization of lab involves turning paper that are used or analog information into digital formats. In practice, this requires implementing solutions, introducing electronic lab notebooks or laboratory information management system, inventory management system, maintenance management system, monitoring system. Tobias already mentioned today there are a wide array of choices which can be overwhelming, but all of these digital tools can greatly simplify creation and maintenance of records while also supporting integration of lab equipment to enhance existing data. This eliminates the need for a lot of manual data processing and allows for automation, whether it is of workflow or device maintenance or lab management. Accurate documentation, of course, is critical to producing efficient research and necessitates that a detailed protocol is followed closely with every step of an experiment being recorded accurately. Seamlessly integrating your set of digital tools and instrumentation to support underlying work in a lab is an anchoring idea for us in the digital lab of the future across all data, all the workflows, and all labs. The lab of today and of the future consists of many different workflows, assays that are conducted across multiple laboratories that are spread across sites around the world using a diverse number of tools and instrumentation from many vendors. The ability to interconnect, the openness, the ability to break data out of the individual silos that they are in and bring together information are key for empowering end users to really gain tangible benefits of this digital lab. Consideration needs to be made that new tools that are adopted can be integrated and they are able to further evolve as needs of the labs evolve and prevent further disconnection of data that could occur. Okay, lab digitalization, of course, makes scientific research more environmentally friendly and sustainable. This is not a benefit that I want to leave out in today's world. Paper is, of course, a substantial contributor, whether it is to deforestation. Switching to a paperless work environment promotes sustainability that we all want to do. Printing, scanning, storing all the physical documents, of course, is also a resource-intensive investment to make and creates significant maintenance costs. Digital tools can strongly support economic sustainability alike, like time saving, cost savings, and risk reduction, all of which are listed here. Let's move on to how can you start your digital journey today? Or how can you improve the digital health of your lab if you're already well on your way into investing in your digital future? Every plan should start with an evaluation of the current status quo. How is the current data flow in the lab? What are your current processes? Are there significant bottlenecks? Pay attention to these. These are ones probably with the potential for improvement by taking away those manual interactions and bottlenecks. What are the digital tools and software that you're already using in the lab today? How do they fit into your current processes? You may have everything from Excel to Microsoft Suite to also more complex systems that you have brought in. Then, as C mentioned, what are the guidelines in place that you need to respect and adhere to? Are you following good laboratory practices or good clinical practices? Are there personal or privacy related regulations, whether it is GDPR or others that you need to consider, or 21 CFR Part 11, a critical aspect to consider in your decision making? Rank all of the potential that you see and cluster them and look at what can be achieved long term and what are the short term wins that maybe you want to start on today. You're well on your way to start evaluating the marketplace for solutions that are available. In order to assess the best informatic technologies that meet your current needs, you also need to consider future proofing your laboratory. What is flexible solutions? What is functional, configurable, but maybe also what are the tools that allow for extensions and scale for the future needs that you encounter in the lab while providing you a cost-effective and easy to introduce solution? As your laboratory instruments age, evaluate replacement instruments that are open and can be easily integrated into informatic tools of your choice. There are vendor-agnostic communication protocol initiatives today in progress that targets the standardization of data format to make it easier for integration. Evaluate whether your new equipment vendor already has plans or already supports one of these evolving standards that supports communication protocol standardization, which would make it easier for you to bring these data out of the device-specific silo. In addition to choosing state-of-the-art equipment and solutions, creating a holistic data strategy and implementing advanced data solutions to connect laboratories to each other, as well as to integrate quality data end-to-end can help overcome silos that exist. Whenever possible, enhance and extend data sets. These contextual information will enrich your data and make it feasible to utilize them to derive a lot more information in the future. With the speed at which technology is evolving today, it is important for labs to be future-proof themselves as best as possible. Though it may be tempting to just focus on what short-term wins, selecting long-term trusted partners who have a proven history of supporting customers is important. Look for instrument and software vendors who are explicitly supporting and promoting open ecosystem to really shape and drive the labs of tomorrow. Thank you for tuning in and listening to us today. Back to you, Anne-Claire.
Yeah, thank you so much for your efforts for that presentation. I think these were great insights on how to start building a digital laboratory with the right tools at your side, and also seeing how the different software solutions are interacting with each other to avoid the pitfalls of disconnected data, right? I'm already seeing questions coming in from our live audience. I think we should get started with the live Q&A. And here's the first one. I think that's actually a good one for Z. What are the common mistakes when going digital in the laboratory? Z, you want to give it a try?
Sure. So to make the answer simple, I'll narrow it down to two reasons. One of them being technical and the other one being behavioral. So the technical mistake would be picking a software that is not scalable. Picking a software that does not have an open API and SDK in order for it to integrate. This really limits labs, and it makes it difficult for them to grow along with their company. And then the behavioral part, which is the part that nobody wants to accept really in the industry, is that just not having a good leadership that owns the project. And when I say leadership, I don't mean the leadership of the company, but someone that leads the actual project. Having having a product owner or having a committee, like a digital lab committee. The ones that we see that really succeed are the ones that form a committee that it consists of, let's say, the end user who is in the trenches doing all the work, let's say the research director and maybe the IT, who form this coalition and say, okay, guys, from this point on, we are trying to implement this software, and within a month, we are going to be at this level of digitization. Within 6 months, we're going to be at this level, and really holding everyone accountable. So if you kind of combine those two together, have a good game plan, pick the right software, success is inevitable in the lab, at least from my experience.
Okay, it really comes down to teamwork,
Yes.
right? Maybe the next one is a good one, since you also mentioned selecting the right tools. As one from the audience, how do I select the right tool, the right digital tool for my laboratory? Which are the requirements I should look at? Lynn, you want to give that a try?
Sure. Thanks, Claire. I think we all already discussed the critical factors to consider when choosing digital tools. It may indeed be overwhelming also as an end user to evaluate all the options that are available today in the marketplace. There are many aspects to consider. Of course, the basic one from price. Is it fitting the need? Is it easy to use? What are the possibilities for integration, API availabilities? What is the support and onboarding possibility available from each supplier? Do they go along with you and make sure that you are successful and the challenges you face along the way are addressed? This aside, one of the more challenging parts of adopting new digital toolset is people who are utilizing the tools. Be open to include them in the selection process. Try and understand their needs and their concerns. Incorporate them as much as possible in the process of selecting. One of the advantages today, of course, with technology is the ability to access and try out a lot of this out-of-the-box solutions available without significantly investing time. Once you have figured out the improvements you want to achieve, what are your target goals? Like C said, in 3 months, 6 months, where do you want to be? Have a first look and evaluate solutions that are out there together with your team. Then I would say get your hands dirty, invest the time to do a free trial or a try on, get to know a handful of them and evaluate the real time learnings you have with them. Are they as easy to use? And this also helps really to get the buy-in from all the users. And this is maybe one tip to consider in selecting your next digital tool.
Okay. Lynn, you mentioned already the buzzword people. There's a next question, which is, I believe it's a really good one. How do I get my team onboarded and get them enthusiastic about digitizing laboratory? Z, do you have any tips and tricks you can share with the
Yes,
audience?
actually, I do. I'll make a general statement first, and then I'll bring specific examples from a lab. I think from speaking generally, just trying to create or pick a software that has automation within it, and the overall culture of the company is kind of gearing to modernize itself and create, let's say, barcodes and signs and things like that within the laboratory to help people to be a bit more excited about this process, because of course there is going to be resistance to change when you are doing a company-wide transition to a digital lab. But to give a very specific example, we had a lab that was doing 10,000 samples a day, and this is kind of importing these samples into the system and then creating mother-daughter relationship, parent-child relationship between those samples. And what they did was they created a barcode using eLab. And then, of course, they could have just had the barcode in the lab that they scanned the samples and then they scanned the barcode. But next to the barcode, they put an emoji of a pregnant woman, holding a baby. And this kind of created this overall fun culture within the lab of people visually seeing things and just being excited to do certain things. So the visual cues become very useful. And then another thing that I wanted to mention is also having, let's say, stand-up meetings, every week, dedicate 5 minutes or 10 minutes to lab digitization, or engage the vendor as much as possible, bring in Tobias, bring in Z, bring in Lynn, or whoever into your lab to talk to you and train and bring some, lunch and coffee and chocolate and build this relationship so people are kind of engaged and constantly learn all the new features that the software provides. And another thing that we've noticed is also kind of creating gamification out of it, or challenges. Let's say, hey, if you create, this many samples by the end of the week within the software, you guys will get, X. If you keep track of all of your, equipment in the lab and whatever, you get another kind of prize. And having that kind of atmosphere, we see that the culture changes, and we see that people are very excited to use all of these digital tools. And that's just my 2 cents.
Right. I think it's always coming down to having fun at work using the digital tools, right? There's another question. How do I define and measure success of a new software adoption in the laboratory? Tobias, any experience from your side?
Yes, I think this strongly depends on what type of software you are integrating and the organization type. So are you an academic organization? Are you a startup? Are you a large corporate? Is it an ELN that you're implementing? Is it an inventory? Is it an asset monitoring? So I believe Z already mentioned it at the beginning. The leadership needs to define on what is success. Is it time savings? Is it financial savings? Is it less downtime on specific equipment? Or is it higher reproducibility of experiments? It really depends on what software you're implementing and what type of organization you are. But it's important to define them in advance. Yeah. Yes.
Do you see major differences, compared from a small to medium or large enterprise, academic institutions, by going digital? Is there anything we can say this is really good for academic institutions, this is good for small to medium, pharma, biotech? Is there anything you would recommend, different segments?
In terms of success measures, or in terms of success measures, on the industry side, adoption is a big thing that especially large corporates are looking at, because if you have several sites on different geographical locations, you have R&D, you have clinical manufacturing, it's a big challenge to find one solution. You normally have several solutions. And if you achieve a specific adoption of the software solution, it's a success. On the academic side, it's more, if we look at core facilities, it's more about the financial aspect. You can recharge the research groups that are using your services or your equipment. If you look at smaller research groups and academic solutions, or if it's small, medium size, they are more looking at downtime. How can we increase the utilization? How can we use the existing resources in the most efficient way?
Awesome. Thank you so much. And thank you all three for taking the time today. We wrap up now the questions we got into the Eppendorf Lab channel. We hope you all enjoyed our webinar and received helpful tips and tricks for your very own digital transformation journey. As all three speakers mentioned, try it out, get motivated, get your team on board. In order to learn more about Cluster Market and the easy-to-use laboratory equipment scheduling and management system, you can visit clustermarket.com and request a demo today. Same as for eLab Next. If you would like to find more about if you would like to find out more about eLab Next and their intuitive all-in-one lab management software, you can visit elabnext.com and start your free trial right today. And if you would like to learn more about Visionize Lab Suite, visit eppendorf.com/Visionize. You can request a demo and one of our expert partners will contact you immediately. Thank you all for joining us today. We look forward to seeing you all in our next broadcast. And on behalf of Tobias, Z, Lynn, myself, and everyone else here at Eppendorf Lab Channel, thank you so much for taking the time to join us today, and see you next time. Stay safe and have a wonderful day.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. Thank you very much.